Welcome, everybody, back to the Friar Talk podcast and YouTube channel. For today's episode, we're going to be going over the Matt Beaty trade and looking into this deal. It's kind of a minor one. He basically got DFA'd by the Dodgers, and then we end up trading a right-handed pitcher, I believe. I forget the name, but a very low-level prospect, kind of just like a quick deal just because when guys get DFA'd, you can move them. So Padres acquire Matt Beaty. Want to talk about a little bit of what his role will be, how he is as a player. I actually talked to a couple of my Dodger fan friends today, and they actually liked Matt Beaty a lot. Like they thought he was a much better player than I think if you look on paper and just look at his numbers. And before I get into what Chase, you and Isaac think, I want to say the one thing that they talked about a lot with his numbers is that he was mismanaged a lot by Dave Roberts because he's one of those players where he kind of feels out the pitchers throughout the game, and he's a lot better later in the game than he is early in the game. And he's not a good pinch hitter. And Dave Roberts would consistently give him at bats as a pinch hitter, and then he would struggle. And then when he got sent down to AAA, he would rake in AAA. So a lot of people have had a lot of faith in it of him like coming out of the Dodgers system really good. Just not enough room for the roster. So they end up moving him. I do think this is a pretty solid impact bat. I think when you start looking at this deal, you go, okay, now the Padres are starting to field a really, really formidable lineup against left-handed pitching. Defensively, he's pretty bad. But overall, pretty average player, but someone that, we could potentially platoon. So, Chase, what do you think about the move? How do you feel about the Padres adding Matt Beaty?
I actually like it a lot. Just when you look at him, you look at the numbers, you think he's just an average player. But last year, he had a 363 on base percentage. And in the magical words of Billy Bean, he walks, he gets on base. And that's what's important. We looked at the Padres last year. They sort of kind of lacked that. They didn't have a lot of guys that got on base consistently. They'd get players that came in waves. Tommy Pham had that great month and a half stretch where he had like nearly 100 on base percentage and then disappeared off the face of the planet, just like almost every other Padre hitter last year outside of Machado, Tatis, and Cronenworth. But even they still went through their own slumps. So adding Matt Beaty, you have a lot of guys who can hit lefties really well. You have Luke Voigt, you have Myers, you have Machado, you have Tatis, you now have Beaty. You have a pretty formidable lineup against lefties. Now you can add him as an everyday center field. We've heard that he's not that good of a pinch hitter. He likes to feel out pitchers throughout a game. If he can be an everyday guy and hit 280 with a 340 to 350 on base percentage and let's say a 420 to 450 slugging percentage, that's an 800 OPS guy. That's exactly what he may not necessarily hit the most bombs, but we've also seen in Matt Beaty's career, he's a very clutch hitter. A very, very clutch hitter. One of his first at-bats as a Dodger was a walk-off home run. And we've seen more than, or time and time again, when it's in the later innings, he's pretty clutch when he's starting. So I like it. I like the move a lot. It definitely is better than Profar in the outfield and a better bat. So I think it's an upgrade in everything. More power, probably not better defensively, but better power, better bat, gets on base more, has a better clutch ability than Profar. So yeah, I like the move.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to get talked about too much just because it's not the move that everybody thought would happen, but it's definitely an impactful move. I brought his numbers up. He, in 120 games, 234 plate appearances, he batted 270 with a 363 on base percentage, 402 slugging percentage for a 765 OPS and a 107 OPS plus with 7 home runs. Not the best power hitter, but also doesn't swing a complete wet noodle like Mr. Profar. But a guy who plays both corner outfield spots, plays first base. I mean, we might not see Eric Hosmer there as much, even if Beatty's not much better at the position. But impactful move. Am I excited for it? No, but it's something that the Padres needed to do, considering the outfield depth is not there. Pretty much what would happen if Grisham got hurt, Profar would play center, or I doubt Myers would. Profar would play center, and then we wouldn't have a left fielder. If Myers got hurt, Profar would play right field, and then we wouldn't have a left fielder. If Profar got hurt, who else, right? So Yeah, we needed to add some outfield depth. So this is a pretty big move, especially considering you were just dumping one of your really low level prospects. He was going to get DFA'd anyway. Matt Beaty was. So impactful move. I think he's going to be a guy that gets on base a lot. He's not going to hit for much power, but he's going to get some base hits. Get on base a lot, and it's not what we wanted. I think we can all admit it's not what we wanted, but I'm not mad about it. I'm happy that we got it. Very good depth piece. And I don't know if he'll be an everyday guy. I think it's going to be, I used to say Profaro for the left field platoon, but I think it's going to be whatever you guys want to call it, beat far, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, I think you'll see him in the lineup a lot more than he was in the Dodgers. I think you'll probably see upwards of 275 to 300 at bats this year because there's actually a spot for him now on the roster. A little scary though, considering we are the Padres and they are the Dodgers, and they tend to develop players a lot better than we do. And people that come to our organization don't exactly pan out like that. But let's see how it works. Based off the numbers from his time with the Dodgers, it's a good move.
Yeah, to go back, one thing I said is I brought up against left-handed pitchers. I meant right-handed pitchers. Matt Beatty's a lefty. Career-wise, he's really struggled against lefties, so do not start him against lefties. And I know that a lot of people were bringing up basically, the best route. I think it was Ryan brought this up also on Twitter, but the best route would be if you could platoon him and Myers in left and then get like an elite right fielder. That's ideal. But when you look at Myers' numbers, Myers absolutely rakes against lefties. Beaty absolutely rakes against righties. So looking at his career numbers against righties, he owns a 339 on base percentage, a 440 slugging, and a 779 OPS. So not like crazy, but that's pretty solid. 105 OPS plus. He really struggles against lefties, but keep in mind, he hasn't really got a decent opportunity to consistently play. So I think that does help a lot. And we talk about that a lot when we bring up Ha-seong Kim, just because he never got an opportunity to kind of get into a rhythm. That's the same thing here with the type of just like how much he was playing, how often he was playing, and just kind of like really how sporadic it was. So I do think that's a plus. I'm also not going to try to sell you guys like, oh, like, Matt Beatty, this is an amazing move. Like it's a platoon guy for an outfield spot that's pretty weak in left field. Not pretty weak. That's an understatement. It's extremely weak in left field. So it's a plus. We've talked about, guys like Brian Reynolds and stuff like that. It's nothing close to that. But if Jurickson Profar struggles, if Matt Beatty struggles, maybe we see them make another move for a different platoon guy. But it does feel like to me, like that's your left field. A Beatty Profar combination there. The only thing is I'm not very comfortable with Profar from the right when he's at the right side of the plate against lefties. So that's the part that doesn't really make sense to me is Profar's better when he's hitting lefty against righties. And if you guys look into Profar's numbers, we were talking about this the other day. I don't even know why Profar switched hits because he can't hit from the right side of the plate like at all. Like his numbers are horrible. So it's a little bit strange just because my thought in left field was like, okay, you're going to have guys doing alternating things, right? You're going to have one guy that hits the lefties, one guy that hits the righties. Both of them hit righties and they can't hit lefties. So it's a little strange there. Chase, I think you brought up how clutch Beaty has been. If you look at his career splits against two outs, runners in scoring position, he has a 911 OPS, 339 batting average, 492 slugging. Only 65 at bats, but he does have a ton of moments too that are like really, really epic late in games. And a lot of them are actually with 2 outs. So he has been a very clutch hitter in the past as well. So it's a good move. I think he's better than Profar if you're looking for someone to hit righties. Don't know who you're going to put out there against lefties. I really have no clue at this point. I don't think they're going to make another move. I think this is the final move that they're going to make this offseason. And I think what's going to happen is based on how the first couple weeks go, based on how the first month goes, we're going to see a bunch of according moves after that. But solid pickup, nothing crazy, but I think it's solid. So what do you guys kind of see as the role, and anything else you want to add about the Matt Beatty trade?
I think he's going to be the everyday left fielder. I since it's so late, I think they're just going to let Myers continue to man right field because he has the experience over Beaty. And two, I think he's going to be the everyday left fielder, like I said. Because Alfaro came out and said, I'm a catcher. I'm not an outfielder. He says he will play any position that the team needs him to, but catcher first and foremost. So it's kind of looking like Anna. I don't think he's had any reps in the outfield this spring training. So looking more and more like he's either going to be the backup catcher or possibly the starting catcher, and they move Nola around because Nola does have nearly experience at I think every position except pitching at this point. So yeah, it looks like we got our everyday left fielder, and who knows who's going to hit against lefties. Maybe they just stick Beaty out there and hope he develops well against lefty hitting or lefty pitching, but we'll see.
I think it's just going to be a platoon guy. I think we're going to see him play both outfield spots pretty consistently, mostly. I doubt we'll see him play a lot of first base just because, Luke Voigt will probably play some first base also, along with Eric Hosmer. So I doubt we're going to see him play much first base. We're going to see him primarily in the corner outfield spots. I don't think he'll be an everyday starter. I think, he'll play a lot, but I don't know, man. I just feel like with the connection that Jerickson has with both Bomel and AJ Preller, I still think he's going to see a lot of playing time. But with that being said, I also think regarding the lineup, 6 to 8 hitter, I don't see him going any higher than that unless he hits some nukes. But 7, I think 7 or 8 is like the jackpot spot for him in the lineup.
I do kind of like him as a 9 hitter, just as like your second leadoff guy because he gets on base at such a ridiculously high rate. Would he have been had the highest on base percentage last year for the Padres? I'm trying to think. What was Fernando's? What was Manny's? Because they were like pretty high, but I want to say more like 340, 350 than 360 on base. Like 360 is way up there.
Yeah. While you guys look for this, at least that means we don't have Nomar Mazara coming out of spring training and being that depth outfielder or possibly starting outfielder who is another ex-Ranger who has had 2 very bad years. I know we were saying that he could, if he continued to have a good spring training. His numbers are down to like a 200 average and like 500 OPS or something like that. He's had a rough couple of games. Don't think he's still going to be that guy. If any guy is going to be the depth outfielder, it's kind of looking like it's going to be Jose Azucar. If you haven't seen him, look up his numbers. He's doing pretty good. He might work his way up to the team, if not just be a depth outfielder in AAA waiting for a call-up.
Well, with the expanded rosters, too, it's 28 guys starting on the active roster. And the Padres do not have someone that can play center field. Azucar can play center field. That's where he's been playing mostly, right? He's been playing left and center, I feel like. Yeah. What's up, Isaac?
So with those 2 spots, I kind of think they're going to go to relievers just because of how many guys are going to be on some inning limits at first. But you brought up who would have the highest on-base percentage. Beatty's was 363, right? So Fernando edged him out by a point. Other than that, he would have been second.
Yeah, this is need guys to get on. So
yeah, absolutely.
I think it's a solid addition. I just don't think it's anything crazy. I don't think anyone really took it as like, oh yeah, here it is. It's a big move. But yeah, we'll see how the platoon goes with however they rotate left and right field. I do wonder if I'm expecting Myers to start every day. I kind of thought that they might go away from that, but it doesn't seem like that's very likely just because you're kind of like throwing guys out there in left field against lefties and stuff, and it's just not worth it to have Myers out of the lineup that much, especially because Myers hit so good early on in the year. So we'll see how it pans out. We'll monitor all the guys, see if they're going to make another move for an outfield. I think inevitably they're going to have to make another move sometime throughout the season for another outfielder, unless someone in the minor league system just is absolutely flying up and just balling out, and he ends up forcing his way on the roster. I know people have talked about Robert Hassel in that spot. I think Robert Hassel's probably too young, but if he starts in AA or AAA and he looks really good, then I think midseason it makes a lot more sense. Just because I don't know. Do you guys think Robert Hassel could potentially come up? Like right now, opening day.
Right now, opening day? Oh, absolutely not. It maybe, after 3 months of season, if he's in Double A, because he did get promoted to Double A, I think, towards the very end. If he rakes in Double A, then yeah, I would give him a shot. If Beaty and Profar aren't manning left field the way that we need them to, yeah, absolutely call him up, because then we actually have someone that could platoon against right-handed pitching. Actually fill that role. So yeah. I mean, not well. He has to hit left-handed pitching. Never mind. That's our weakness there. Yeah. Still, even then, he's a lefty, so you're gonna maybe get a little bit of struggle. So you just gotta hope he balls out in Double A against everybody, and hope he can fill that role if Profar and Beaty don't do the trick.
I think maybe when you can add more players on the roster come September, maybe if he's doing good enough. Other than that, I don't see it. I just think he's too young. He hasn't seen any time in Double A. Of course, he will this year, and I expect him to, do just as good as he did in Single A and High A ball. But I just think he's too young. I think it's too early.
Yeah, I feel the same way. So we'll see how the outfield plays out. Keep a lot of this is where the biggest question marks are. So they do have Matt Beaty, going to likely hit against mostly righties. I'd expect him to play almost every day against righties. Maybe that's not the case. I do also think, Isaac, you brought up that you think that Jurickson will be the initial and the opening day left fielder. I think that's likely, but I think that Beaty will force his way into hitting against all the righties early on, just because we've seen that Jurickson often struggles really bad early in the season, and he's had a pretty rough spring as well. So I think that's going to do it for today's episode. Thank you guys for listening. Tomorrow we're going to be talking about the starting pitching, and then the next day we're going to be talking about this lineup. So stay tuned. Going to be talking about a bunch about the Padres throughout this week, and then going to do some prospect talk later in the week as well. But thank you all for listening, and we'll talk to you guys very soon.